Hello, 8th grade. Welcome to Tuesday, May 26th. We're going to try and keep it a little shorter this week because we missed Monday. Hopefully, our workload won't be too much. We're going to go ahead and look at some more poetry. We're going to write one poem and we're going to fill in some notes just like we did last week. I'm going to ask that you watch the entire video. I'm going to do some instruction, have you fill in some notes and turn those in. And then on Wednesday, there's going to be a quiz based on last week's notes and this week's notes. Just some multiple choice. It'll be a quiz I turn on Wednesday. Make sure you have studied both weeks' notes and you should be fine. Let's get into it. This week's lesson, I want to go back and do some rhyme scheme practice. Some people really got rhyme scheme. They dug it. They knew what was going on. And some people had some trouble. So I'd like to run through this and review rhyme scheme. When we talk about rhyme scheme, we're looking for the lines that rhyme together. We're lettering them, we're marking the lines that rhyme in the same way with the same letter. So let's look. We've got some examples here. So the first one, "O Denny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. To the summer's gone and all the flowers are dying. 'Tis you must go and I must bide." This is a fairly famous song. Let's look at the lines that rhyme. We've got calling, side, dying, bide. Our first line is always going to get an A. We're going to label it A, and we'll see if anything else rhymes with it, it's going to get an A as well. So calling and side. Side does not rhyme with calling, so I'm going to go ahead and just put a B there. Calling, side, dying. Dying doesn't rhyme with any of those, and so I'm going to go C. I'm just going to iterate to the next letter. I'm going to go to the next letter. And so then I've got bide. Okay, if I look back here, bide rhymes with side, so my last line is going to be a B. So the rhyme scheme of this stanza is A, B, C, B. That's all there is to it. We're going to start with A. If the next line rhymes with the first line, we'll put an A. If it doesn't, we go to the next letter. We say B. "Awake for morning in the bowl of night has flung the stone that puts the stars to flight. And lo, the hunter of the east has caught the Sultan's turret in a noose of light." So we've got our first line here, and we're always going to label that A. We've got night. The second line is flight. That rhymes with the first line, so let's go ahead and mark that as A. Caught does not rhyme with night or flight. Easy enough. Let's make that B. And then noose of light. Light rhymes with flight and night. Good. Let us put an A there. So our rhyme scheme for this poem is A-A-B-A. Easy enough. Next one, I've got wide, kin, set, din. First line is wide. All right, I'm always going to label that A. Does kin rhyme with wide? It does not. So I'm going to put a B. Set doesn't rhyme with kin or wide. So I'm going to put a C. Din rhymes with kin. So I will go ahead and mark that as B. I've got A, B, C, B. This is a standard quatrain rhyme scheme. Okay, gonna do two more just to bring it on home. He gives, so we've got shake, mistake, sweep, and flake. Shake is our first line, so we're always gonna make that an A. Mistake and shake, that rhymes. I'm gonna call it an A as well. Sweep does not rhyme with mistake or shake, so let's label that B. And then I've got flake, which rhymes with the first two lines, so that is an AABA rhyme scheme. Going down to the second stanza of the same poem, I've got deep, keep, sleep, sleep. What is our rhyme scheme? The very first line is A. The next line rhymes with that. The next line rhymes with that as well. The final line rhymes with the first line as well. Our rhyme scheme is AAAA. That happens. It's true. All right. There you go. Hopefully that's going to help us out. I've got one question on rhyme scheme on this week's notes, and with a couple definitions that we should have in our poetry vocabulary. The first is a couplet. A couple of things, when you have a couple of things, you have two. A couplet is just two lines of poetry with the same meter, and it often rhymes. There is an example here, "But if thou live remembered not to be, die single and thine image dies with thee." And so we have be and thee, we have rhyming lines, and it's just a pair. You see rhyming couplets in the midst of other poetry. Sometimes they're out there on their own. Very often we put rhyming couplets into bigger poems. When we talk about stanzas, this stanza, the second stanza, when we talk about stanzas, what we're talking about is the basic groupings of lines in a poem, the block of lines together like a paragraph in a poem. When we look down at this free verse poem that we're going to talk about in a minute, you've got a stanza here and you've got a stanza here. So when we are saying stanza, we just mean the grouping of words together in a poem. Okay, 3 different types of poetry to look at this week. I'm going to ask you to try and write one of them. The first is free verse, unrhymed poetry with no meter. In this case, the reason it's poetry is because of the descriptive language. Sometimes you get repetition, sometimes you get rhyme, sometimes you just get descriptive language, and that is enough to make it poetry. So this is from This Is Just to Say from William Carlos Williams. I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox, and which you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me, they were delicious, so sweet and so cold. So we have this good imagery. Free verse doesn't have to have a rhyme scheme, doesn't have to be organized even into stanzas. This helps organize sort of thoughts and imagery in this poem, but that is our free verse. Let's look at a limerick. A limerick is a form of poetry that tells a humorous story. It has 5 lines with a set rhyme scheme. So this is structured rhyme scheme, AABBA, and a consistent meter. Lines 1, 2, and 5 of the poem rhyme and have the same number of syllables. They say usually 9. I think 8 or 9 makes a good limerick. You can get away with 8 or 9 pretty easily. When you go longer than that, you are an artist living out on the edge. You can do it. It's just not standard. Lines 3 and 4 rhyme with each other, but not with the other lines. They are the B in that AABBA rhyme scheme, and they have the same number of syllables. Fewer than the other lines for certain, usually 5 or 6. 5 or 6 seems to be the sweet spot. Again, it just needs to be fewer syllables than your other lines. Most importantly, a limerick should be funny, and this usually means an unexpected or unusual ending. Let's look at 2 examples. So I've got Crowded Tub by Shel Silverstein. There's too many kids in this tub. There's too many elbows to scrub. I just washed a behind that I'm sure wasn't mine. There's too many kids in this tub. So we've got our lines 1, 2, and 5 are tub, scrub, and then we have tub again. So those rhyme. Let's look at our number of syllables. There's too many kids in this tub. That's 8. So I've got 8, 8, and then 8 at the end. For our middle lines, I just washed a behind. So I've got 6 here and 6 here. That is the structure of a limerick. There is some rhyming. It should be funny. That's objectively a funny poem. Then we've got There Was an Old Man with a Beard by Edward Lear. There was an old man with a beard who said, "It's just as I feared. 2 owls and a hen, 4 larks and a wren have all built their nests in my beard." Let's look at our syllable count. I've got 8. And then 2 owls and a hen. I've got 5 and 5. So we went 8, 8, 5, 5, 8. That is our syllable count. And that helps keep that good rhythm going. So that rhythm makes a limerick a limerick. Apparently Edward Lear is sort of the grand master of limericks. Historically, he is someone who dealt in them quite a bit. Let's go on to the cinquain. The cinquain is a poem that is a poem because it restricts our writing to the structure, much like a haiku. It's a 5-line poem. There is no rhyme scheme. There's no meter. It's a set number of words, and those words have a specific function. No word can be repeated. So we've got line 1 can have 1 word. Line 2 can have 2 words. Line 3 has 3, 4, 4. And then 5, we come back to 1 word again. But those words have to have a specific function. So 1 word that names the subject is your first line. Line 2, they're adjectives or nouns that describe the subject. Line 3, verbs, so actions related to the subject. And line 4, 4 words that express a feeling about the subject. So let's look at an example. This is quite detailed, but this is what it looks like when you write a cinquain. Butterflies, gentle creatures, fluttering, searching, landing, lovely flashes of light, miracles. So there we are. We came back around one word that refers to or is a synonym for the subject at the end. That is the structure. It's fairly straightforward. No one is going to tell you you're wrong when you write this poem as long as you follow these rules. This week, I'm going to ask that you write either a limerick or a cinquain. You only have to write one poem. You're going to try your hand at either a limerick or a cinquain, whichever one you feel you can be creative with. The secret word is pretzel. All right, that's all I have this week. If you need any help at all, you can find me in my office hours on Wednesday this week. I'm also available, as always, via email. Any of the questions that you write in the comments in Google Classroom, I get right away and I respond to those pretty quickly. That's all I have. Have a great week. What the heck is teacher mode? Oh, okay. Okay.